And again, thanks for the HFA for allowing me to speak with you guys today. Please relax. This is going to be really informal, but the one point I wanted to make is that Caprice said there's going to be a lot of stats. I love insights and stats, so I'm going to show you some really cool trends. Don't worry about taking a bunch of notes. As Caprice said, just ask for the deck and I'll shoot it to you for sure. But this is an important subject, right? Because a lot has gone on recently in the last couple of years with the economy, with our business. But really a public service announcement. I'm with a company called Vericast. Proudly, in the next couple of weeks, I will be there for 35 years, believe it or not. So a long time. It's really something that I'm proud of. But more than that, I'm proud of the way our company works with the Center of Missing and Exploited Children, the National Center of Missing and Exploited Children in Washington, D.C., as symbolized by this ribbon. Part of what we do is a solution is that we actually have a really very, very broad reach, reaching 70 to 100 million households every week with our shared mail product. That platform allows us to feature different missing children and help recover them. So very, very proud to be working with the National Center of Missing and Exploited Children. My company, just a little about my company. In simplistic terms, for decades, we work with companies, connecting them with consumers, both offline and online. And there's a lot of different ways. I'm not here to talk about specifically about what we do, but at the end, if you want more information about maybe how we can help you and work with you, absolutely. But really, what we do, we were in business for a long time. We work with thousands of clients from CPG to grocery to restaurant to home services and home improvement, and of course, retail and furniture. We reach almost every household in the country by one of our platforms. We monitor 110 billion daily intent signals through digital means. And we actually have an arm of our country that redeems coupons and measures coupons. So in a nutshell, that's what we do. But today, really specifically, I'm going to talk about a couple different things. Really a quick look back at 2022. What was 2022 like? And what were the impacts on consumer spending? We all know some of those big impacts. I'll just dive into them a little bit. Importantly, why retailers should not cut back on any advertising. You might have an appetite to do that, knowing that our industry is softening up a little bit, but I'm going to show you why that's not a good idea. Then we're going to look into 2023. We have some forward-looking survey research that was done to say, hey, this is what folks are looking to buy in the home furnishings arena in 2023, at least in the first half, and who is going to buy that type of furniture. And then lastly, I'm going to give you 5 reasons why you should be promoting right now. You should be advertising right now. Actually, I might even give you 6 as a bonus at the end, but that's how I'll kind of leave it with you. So hopefully this will be fun and interactive. If you guys have any questions at all, just stop me. So looking back at 2022, so very, very interesting. 2021 was a pretty good year for furniture. It was up 4.5%. If you guys remember, from the middle of 2020 to the middle of 2021, there was about 20 consecutive months, believe it or not, that were encapsulated in that time period and beyond, that represented year-over-year increases in furniture buy from consumers, which was terrific. I mean, people were at home, they invested in their homes. A lot of retailers didn't have to do much advertising, right? Business was kind of like falling into their laps, a lot of them, because that's what people were concentrating on. So things have changed a little bit. We know that in the middle of last year, inflation was a big, big factor hurting consumers. Gas prices, energy prices. Consumers were starting to really feel that. So what has happened is that there's been a shift more to essentials, folks buying essential purchases versus discretionary. Only makes sense, right? You want to make sure that you have food. You want to make sure you have shelter and energy, right? You need to heat your home. So inflation really, really hurt consumers. It peaked. It seems to be subsiding a little bit. And then actually in 2023, looking forward, it's not just about having merchandise. So we know that in years past, there was an influx of inventory. A lot of furniture retailers tried to get rid of that inventory. Now that the supply chain is kind of eased up and gotten better, folks have different merchandise to promote. They need to promote that merchandise so that consumers know that you're selling it, right? And then you're going to hear this a lot from me. Consumers today are looking for deals, offers, promotions, and it's not just one consumer, it's most consumers. So in 2022, the top subcategory of furniture was bedding. Probably no surprise. It's been like that for a number of years. Bedding, $20 billion out of all the spend that happens with the furniture category. And it's 16% of the total furniture spend, right? So that category as well enjoyed some pretty good sales over the years, but it's predicted to slow down, just like furniture as a whole. And the International Sleep Products Association has actually forecasted the model for this year to be up about 1.5%. And what's going to happen, this is kind of interesting, some economists as well predict that in 2024 that mortgage rates are going to ease. It's going to spew a lot more home furnishings activity. So again, for another forecast for 2023, what does it look like for the furniture category? About 1.9%, 2% growth is the popular forecast. Again, economic uncertainty. There's uncertainty every month. Every month, my company asks me to make commentary on what consumers are spending on and why. It's been really tough for a lot of very tenured economists to predict month to month what's going to happen. So there's uncertainty. There's also a fear of recession. We don't know if there's a recession right now or if there's one coming. And that kind of is going to impact the way that consumers think and feel. And really, the good thing is, with all that's going on, unemployment is still relatively low, right? And also consumer spending throughout it all, people are still spending. They're just pivoting from month to month about what they want to spend on. So impacts on consumer spending, I mentioned inflation. What's happening is that loyalty, right? So there used to be a big loyalty component of buying furniture and buying in retail in general. What's happening now is that consumers are a lot less loyal to any one retailer just because of the way they think. They're thinking now they want a discount. They want a deal. They want perceived value. So that's impacting loyalty. So just a couple of key points on inflation. Last June, 9.1%, 40-year high. It's still pretty high, but it has softened a little bit. Right? It's at 5% now, which was just over from last month. And now 60% of Americans, believe it or not, are still living paycheck to paycheck. That is unbelievable stat that I just couldn't get my arms around. And it's just amazing that when I see the spending that's going on and the amount of folks that are living paycheck to paycheck, they're really being very agile. They're being smart, and they're pivoting to different things that they buy from month to month. And then consumer sentiment. There's a concern, right? There's a big concern that the economy might worsen. So again, no matter who you talk to, there's going to be different voices out there that say, hey, you know what, there is concern. We might be coming up on a recession. So this particular stat, the average consumer is having to spend an additional $371 per month just due to inflation. A few months ago, that was well over $400. So it's come down a little bit, but that's still significant, right? Credit card debt is really high. And why I'm bringing that up too is that a lot of people are buying discretionary items like furniture with credit. So if you have a retail business, you should really be promoting all the different credit opportunities and options that consumers might have. The savings rates today, I mean, less folks are saving. Mortgage rates are high, as we know, and the Fed has raised those interest rates once again. So, you know, consumers are feeling it. Whether they show it all the time or not, they're definitely feeling it. Again, almost 70% of the country feels like that we're in a recession right now. 65% say that rising gas prices are impacting their ability to afford other things. Luckily, gas is starting to decrease as well. And then 75% think inflation increase will happen in the next few months, believe it or not. So even though it's coming down, some folks think that it might go back up. So overall, with consumer spending, if you guys look to the right, what are we doing as consumers? Overall, if you think about everything that you buy, a lot of consumers are shopping less frequently, they're spending less per trip, they're prioritizing those needs over wants, right? They're buying more private label. So if you think about going to a grocery store, right? Private labels at grocery stores are going crazy. People are just trading down, right? They're trading down from going out to a casual dining restaurant to a QSR now. And as I mentioned before, a lot less loyalty. So what you need to do is you have to be in the game. People are looking for promotions. They're looking for offers. And I don't want to keep saying they're looking for the lowest price, because not all of them are. In the furniture world, it's all about value and perceived value with consumers. So as long as you promote value, it's not all about price. Don't let anybody think that it's always all about price, because it's not. So taking a look at March, again, as I mentioned to you guys before, every month I comment on retail sales. Retail sales for furniture dropped month over month and year over year. Again, this is kind of interesting. The first 6 weeks of the year, up to President's Day, retail numbers were good, and furniture numbers were pretty good too. So after President's Day, it's kind of dropped off. So again, softening out here, and again, we need to take a look at this, because if this continues, again, that fight for share, because there's going to be folks that are going to buy furniture, you need to think about how you're going to be in that fight for share. Here's some reasons why you should not cut back on advertising. There has been a ton of different studies out there, decades of research. This research basically says that if you maintain or increase your advertising during an economic downturn, you could significantly raise your sales, not only in the immediate time frame, but years to follow. So the reason why I'm bringing this up, it's not all doom and gloom, and if you feel like it's doom and gloom and you're saying, wow, people are pulling back on their spend, they are. It's going to be more normalized. It's not going to be that great time that we saw a couple years ago that's going to be sustained. So basically, you need to make sure that there's a reason why a consumer will visit your location or want to shop with you. So it needs, your message needs to be promoted. This is an interesting stat as well. Again, companies that maintain or increase their advertising during a recession in the past, because we've had a number of recessions, saw sales increases up 256% versus only 18% for companies that said, you know what, I'm not going to advertise at all. So huge opportunity if you sustain your advertising. And you know, this is really near and dear to me. It's about brand awareness, right? And your brand equity. So if you stop advertising in as little as 6 months, your brand awareness drops 24%. And what that means is that in today's world, where more than 7 in 10 visit only 3 stores or less before making their furniture purchase, how are you going to get into that 3 stores or less? Consumers are doing so much research, they're looking for promotions, they're looking for deals, they're looking for offers. If you're not doing that, if you're not advertising, you're not going to be in that 3 store or less. That's very, very critical. And then, this is really business 101, right? It costs businesses 4 to 5 times more to regain a lost customer that you once had than a customer without consistent advertising cadence. So that advertising cadence is going to keep not only your current customer, but it's going to attract new ones as well. So everybody know, I hope everybody knows who Jerry Epperson is. It's a gentleman who's really unbelievably knowledgeable, an analyst in our industry. He spoke here yesterday via Zoom, I think, Caprice. But I follow him all the time. He's a really, really smart guy. He basically said, you know what, in the second half of 2020 and throughout the whole year of 2021, there was more demand for furniture than we could meet. and those days are over, he said. So we all need to resume advertising to create demand and remind everybody what we sell. And I think that really was heartfelt, because I know that he meant it. He said it a number of times in person and in trade publications as well. He just felt that a lot of retailers were basically saying, you know what, I didn't do anything, or I didn't do that much, and my sales were great. So let me just ride it out and see what will happen. Well, a lot of retailers kind of felt pain, so they needed to get back into the game. Here are some trends and opportunities. So what did 2022 do? It's kind of, the one thing I wanted to bring up, it created this really unbelievably talented, savvy consumer who is a value seeker. And when interest rates, when inflation and gas prices went up in the middle part of last year, it was really the lower income groups that really were feeling the pain first, right? So it was not only the lower income groups, but it was also folks that had mortgage rates that were starting to get higher. So what started out as value seeking with one demographic quickly expanded to every demographic. Every time an interest rate went up, it impacted more and more people. It was really amazing to see that all the different surveys and stats that came out every single month when inflation went up, gas prices went up, energy prices went up, more and more consumers became these value seekers, right? So when we talk about value seeking, what are they doing now? You guys know all about buy now, pay later. 66% increase in consumers that want that and are looking to do that to save money. 82% of consumers are looking less expensive ways to shop. They're looking for those less expensive ways to shop. 86% of consumers say that they try to only purchase when products are on sale. So these are all things that they learned and we've learned in 2022. And 71% say that due to higher gas prices, they're shopping closer to home and less frequently, like I said before. Inflation, again, what are those top things that consumers are looking to do? They're looking for discounts. 80% of us are looking for discounts when it comes to home furnishings, believe it or not. So they're looking for ways to save money, they're looking for value. And then a lot of consumers are saying, you know what, I'm just delaying some of those major purchases because right now I can't afford it. But the one good thing is that consumers today really want to go into a store. Coming out of COVID and coming in the midst of last year, people were just being tired to say, hey, you know what, I only could shop online. I want to get out. I want to experience things. Really good furniture retailers have made that furniture shopping experience an experience, if you will. So folks want to get out there, and across all categories, but especially furniture, 81% prefer shopping in a store for furniture, which is pretty powerful. This year, believe it or not, with all this craziness I just talked about, 73% of consumers plan on shopping the same or more in store than last year. And again, discounts are important. And when I mentioned before about brand loyalty, so many consumers are now open to shop different channels, different retailers, and even entertaining different products that they might not know of existed because they're not loyal to that one brand anymore, right? Discounts are very high. They rank at 7 out of 10. And this was really interesting too. So what I mentioned about demographics and value-seeking behavior, this stat here, discounts in the home category were most sought after by those earning $150,000 to $200,000. So higher income, definitely looking for discounts as well. And this is our category, the home and decor category. That was one of the categories that folks were saying that they'd be the least loyal with that particular category. This is where they plan on shopping this year. The family room is the most important place. That is not a surprise. People are home more. A lot of folks are working from home more. They're taking still account of their furnishings throughout their house. The family room is where a lot of things happen, and that is the top most important room where the investment is supposed to occur this year. And who's driving those purchases? I talked to Caprice about this a little while ago. This particular survey, first half of the year, so it's January to June, right? Looking forward to June. Younger consumers really fueled furniture purchases at the end of last year. They're looking to do the same this year as well. So you take a look at those millennials, those are the folks 27 to 42, and Gen Zers 18 to 26. They're absolutely fueling some of those purchases, or most of those purchases, for the first half of the year. And what are folks buying? Sofas are the #1 thing on folks' lists in the first half of this year. And then you guys could see rugs, accessories, wall decor. So again, people are still planning to buy furniture. This is what they're planning to buy. In store, very important. I mentioned it before. That's good news for people that have stores, right? Purchases that were made in store, 63% in the second half of last year of home furnishing purchases were made in store, meaning obviously 37% were online. 3/4 plan to purchase a sofa inside a brick and mortar store this year. So again, brick and mortar, good news. People still like to go into a brick and mortar location. And the rationale hasn't changed for decades, right? What is the reason? People want to touch, feel, sit, lie down. They want to go into a store before they buy something as major and as discretionary as furniture. So again, in the first half of the year, this question was posed to the people who were planning to buy furniture. How far are you willing to travel? It's kind of interesting here. So most consumers, that sweet spot, 10 to 14 miles. But if you take a look at it, 51% of consumers are willing to travel over 10 miles. So it could be 25 miles or more. So furniture stores in years past really were a destination, a big destination. I mean, you guys know there are several big name furniture stores throughout the country that people drive over 100 miles in some instances to go. So clearly, destinations, the experience are very important to consumers. And reviews are important too. So making sure that you're doing what you can to incentivize consumers to leave a review. Make sure that they're satisfied, so it's a positive review. But those reviews are really important, especially to the younger population who is planning to buy. And the rationale of why someone says, hey, you know what, I don't want to buy in store, I want to buy online. Free shipping has always been the #1 reason why somebody wants to buy online, and obviously the convenience for sure. But again, that popular theme, as I said before, sales and discounts. Sales and discounts are really important to consumers. Financing, as I mentioned before, who's going to use financing the most? Millennials, for sure. And really the most popular terms of financing are those longer terms and no money down. And again, increasingly, the number of consumers are starting to use that buy now, pay later. And clearly, younger audiences are looking to do that. Okay, so what type of media would influence somebody who's planning to buy furniture? So when you take a look at this pie chart, where everything will total 100, right? So this is share of media influence. When you take a look at the whole population, everybody who's raised their hand and says that, yeah, I plan on buying furniture in the next 12 months. So you can see here, the largest share of influence is digital. Right behind it is print. And then you can see traditional powerhouses like TV, as far as influence, don't have the biggest influence when it comes to trying to influence somebody to buy furniture, right? So clearly, this is kind of interesting. If you take a look at print and digital together, I could take a look at almost every category out there, print and digital together, be a different combination, but they're going to have the largest share of media influence. So that was all of furniture, potential furniture buyers. As we peel back the onion and we just look at millennials, it's 70% share, print and digital, but it's kind of shifted a little bit, as you guys see, right? It's a little bit more digital than print. And then Gen X, they're a little bit older, that print is going to go up a little bit and the digital is going to go down, but still right around 2/3 to 3/4 of media influence share. And then boomers. Look what happens when you survey boomers to say what is the biggest influential media on your furniture purchases, and then you take a look at those stats, and you can see that it definitely shifts a little bit more print, a little less digital, which is kind of interesting. But I think the thing is that when you're considering media to use, if you use a combination of print and digital, no matter who your customer is, that's a pretty good strategy considering what's influencing their purchases. So a couple of challenging things with some media though, right? With digital media, Caprice and I and Tim were talking about this earlier too, that the average person is exposed to 6,000 to 10,000 digital ads a day. I mean, to me, that's overwhelming. It's I don't even realize that, right? But you are. And folks that are exposed to those ads, we're probably doing other things, right? We're not just looking at our phone, looking at those ads. There's other things that we're doing, similar to this young mother and her daughter or son. And then TV, people are streaming now. So TV doesn't have the impact that it once did. And 42% don't even subscribe to any TV service. So you're missing a whole opportunity if there's too many eggs in one basket for TV, which is still very expensive. So again, it's challenging for advertisers to try to capture that attention. So this is really kind of interesting. Since COVID, since we're working from home, since we're spending more time at home, the engagement that you have with some other media is really starting to lessen the impact on the influence it has. What I mean by that is that there's a lot of digital clutter out there. You get a lot of ads. I think, I didn't even put these words in her mouth, but Caprice said that consumers are being numb to digital, which in a way they are in some instances for sure. And print is making a resurgence. When we started working from home, and we started taking a look at our mailbox and getting out during the day and walking to the mailbox, print has definitely seen a resurgence. And it's because it's trusted. It's a very trusted media. It's something, again, that it's not going to negatively impact somebody and seem overwhelming. Decline of third-party cookies, you guys have known all about that as well. That's going to make it harder for the targeting that's out there that Google and some other folks are doing right now. So again, digital might get more expensive and it might get less targeted. One of the things, as Caprice showed you, these QR codes are becoming very, very popular. So on print pieces that we see, QR codes are great because you not only look at the print data and see what's featured, you zap that QR code and you're brought to a landing page or a website where you can see a whole slew of different things that are available. And really, I think the most important message, I kind of alluded to it before, is that someone will always ask me, well, what type of media should we use? Well, an omnichannel approach, if you could afford it and you could take a look and see how I could talk to a consumer in different channels, is always, always very impactful. So again, when media is used together, it motivates much, much stronger than a singular type of channel approach. And then I mentioned about direct mail. Today, many, many folks, 70% regularly look at ads they get in the mail. They agree that direct mail helps them save money. It motivates a consumer to try a new store or business that might not have before. And then the other activity, which is really important, online, right? 42% say an ad in the mail encourages them to go online for more information. And then lastly, a third say that receiving an ad in the mail encourages them to go online to make a purchase from that advertiser. So mail interacts with the digital world in a lot of different capacities. All right. This is where I'm going to leave you with five really good reasons why a furniture retailer should be really promoting right now. And we are, the end of the month in April, so starting May. We're going to be heading into summer soon. So what are those reasons? The first one we talked about a lot, right? It's the softening of consumer demand for furniture. So if there's a softening of consumer demand out there, how are you going to be getting your share? Like, what are you doing to battle for that limited share that's out there? If you don't do anything, you're not in the game, right? So that's an important thing to think about. Secondly, new mover season. We're in the midst of new mover season, and I'll get into a couple of stats on that. Little do a lot of people know that the majority of furniture sales happen, albeit just a slight majority, in the second half of the year. I've noticed that for many years now, several years in a row. Also, we're in the midst of this great outdoor furniture opportunity, and still people are wanting to buy outdoor furniture. They need to create that space. They want to create that space very inviting for their families and friends. And then, even though most people are wanting to buy furniture in a store, e-commerce, online competition is growing and growing. So you need to make sure that you're in front of that and you're in the game with those e-commerce players. So when I talked about softening consumer demand, right, we talk about shifting consumer spending. That's softening the demand. Inflation, we talked about that a lot as well. Households are cutting back on discretionary purchases. And for every single percentage point, that interest rates go up, especially on mortgages, it takes people out of a potential home purchase. And what I've learned over the years is that when you take a look at all the furniture sales, 20 to 25% of all furniture sales are directly or indirectly impacted by a home sale. That's a pretty powerful statistic, right? So less people are buying homes, obviously we're going to feel it as an industry, right? So again, we have to fight for share as retailers, right? We want to make sure that we're in the game. Moving season, I talked about this a little bit. Last year, 27 million Americans moved. That's almost 9% of the population. It's been higher in the past too. 80% of all the moves that happened in this country happened between April and September. That makes sense though, right? Kids are off from school. It's the right time to move. And when we take a look at what's on the list of what new movers want to buy, it's not a surprise, as I mentioned, that furniture is really important. 47% of all movers, as well as millennial movers, plan to purchase furniture and home decor within the first year of their move. They spend $4,300 on average with furniture and $11,000 overall. And this is really important too, because when we talk about brand loyalty and the lack of it and the lessening of it that's happening today, 34% of new movers are likely to try a new brand or new store for their furniture or home decor. And when I mentioned the second half of the year, right? So I take this data right from the Department of Commerce, and this is raw data, and I thought it was kind of interesting. So I plotted every month what was the percentage of furniture and home furnishing sales by month. So you can take a look at the second half of the year. It's a little over 51%, but you take a look at the second half of the year, you see some pretty important dates coming up, and we'll get into those. But back to school for sure. If you take a look at November and December, this is something that was really interesting that happened last year with the furniture category and some other retail categories. That creep, that holiday creep, where a lot of the sales that used to happen in December, believe it or not, was the number 1% furniture sales month of the year for a number of years. So that creep has happened earlier. So November was a big time that got more percentage of sales than December. But this is just really important. You should be advertising now because people take on average 71 days from the idea that they want to buy furniture to when they actually do. So the second half of the year is something that you all should be concentrating on. And our company, because of our distribution platform with print, these are major days. The top furniture content days of our package overall, 8 of the top 10 occurred in the second half. So it's amazing that you have days like, obviously, Labor Day, Independence Day, Memorial Day. So those are top 10 content days. And just quoting my friend again, Jerry Epperson, there's a lot more reason to buy furniture than you would think, right? These are just some of the different reasons why you need to buy furniture. Jerry always said too that, hey, you know what? It's not all about those 3-day weekends. Those 3-day weekends when furniture retailers advertise should be table stakes, right? Everybody should be advertising because consumers are going to look, they're going to evaluate where they want to shop, and hopefully they'll shop at one of those 3, and one of those 3 is you if you're a retailer. But thinking about that, look at those static sales that happen throughout the year, right? Why are they static? Because all these different life events happen during the year. Bonuses, change homes, you marry, divorce, promotion, natural disaster, although that's a sad thing, it does occur and it really impacts furniture sales. Tax refunds, right, that folks are getting now, albeit less. And Jerry said a couple of things that were kind of funny to me too. Gaining weight. If you gain weight, you need to buy a bigger sofa or chair, I guess, right? And then children that ruin or break furniture. So clearly, there's so many different bits of rationale of why folks buy furniture. And these are those key promotional periods heading into the second half. You guys probably can't see them, but these are Memorial Day. These were taken from our package, some of our clients that participated. Memorial Day, Independence Day, back to school, really big, Veterans Day, Black Friday, and holiday, of course. And then outdoor demand. I mentioned about outdoor demand. I mean, it was really wild. It's like during COVID, people bought outdoor furniture so much that the supply chain issue was so bad, people couldn't buy outdoor furniture, though they wanted to. And if they found it, it was expensive and they still bought it. So it's amazing. People wanted to have their home oasis. That is still popular, and I could tell when I talk to some of our clients that are selling outdoor furniture, the supply chain's gotten better. There's a lot of great variety out there. It's still very important to promote outdoor. People are spending more time outdoor. They're looking to upgrade their furniture. And you know, this is really interesting too. One of my friends bought one, and I said, wow, that's pretty cool. But stats show the same story. Outdoor bars were really, really important to a lot of consumers, and they're outside entertaining. And this was kind of mind-blowing, but I think we've all been on Zoom calls in the past. Maybe this is true, but outdoor offices. One of my colleagues in California has an outdoor office, so he's got it all set up outside. So outdoor space, still really important. And then I was talking about so much of online retailers out there that might be kind of infiltrating sales. Even though, again, people want to buy in a store, you can't ignore how much is being bought online. Okay, this was from eMarketer, and this basically shows that 1/3 of furniture and home furnishing sales are now online. So guys, take a look at 2026. It's up over 40% of sales, home furnishing sales will be online. So you need to combat those folks. You need to make sure that you're going to be in that consideration set ahead of some of those online retailers as well. And again, I mentioned the in-store purchases dominate, but that online intent, this is intent where people plan to purchase furniture, that's going up. I gave you 5, this is the 6th one. Baby boomers. We all talk about the younger generations and how important they are to furniture purchases, and they are, they definitely are. But something really kind of interesting happened last year. With the decrease in the amount of real estate that was being sold, there wasn't a lot of inventory. The folks that were buying, more often than not, were boomers. For the first time in several years, millennials weren't the #1 share of home buyers. It was the boomers last year. Reason why this is important, boomers do 2 things, actually 3 things, because Caprice reminded me. They're downsizing, they want to downsize. However, sometimes they look at the value of their home and they look at the inventory that's out there and they just said, you know what, I'm just going to stay where I am. So they're investing in their own space, which means home improvement and home furnishings. So that's one reason. The second is if they're buying a new home, clearly, many times, those boomers are going to want to buy new furniture for their homes, including vacation homes and third homes. I mean, the boomers still have the majority of the wealth. So when they're buying these homes, they're spending money on home improvement and home furnishings. So clearly, that's just something not to take your eye off of that opportunity. And one of the key things that I talk about all the time is that retailers always come to us and say, I don't think, we don't have to do an evaluation or an analysis with our database with you guys because I know who our consumer looks like. We know our consumers look the same for years. That might have been true years ago, but during COVID and coming out of COVID, and especially with those new value-seeking consumers that have emerged, you'd be amazed of the new folks that are being attracted to retailers that they've never shopped before, right? So either you're trading up or trading down, but you're more open as a consumer to shop at more retailers, a wider variety of retailers, because you're interested in those discounts and those promotions. And again, the loyalty is not there anymore. So if there's one message I want to say, a couple of different messages. One, about the advertising. It might be easy to think as we go along this year, and before things get better, they might soften up a little bit worse than they are now. Don't stop advertising, because again, the value of you getting your brand awareness, your name out there in the consideration set of consumers who are always looking for deals and value and promotions, you need to do that. And then, if you want to make your advertising more impactful and effective, considering multi-channel, right? The same message with a couple of different channels. And think about traditional advertising that you might not have used in the past, right? If you're investing in digital, that's great. Everybody should. If you're investing in TV, if you have the budget, you should. They all have their place, right? You remember that pie chart. But think about direct mail and the receptiveness and the impact that it has, because it really does wonders in the minds of consumers, and it's really a perfect fit for something like home furnishings. Thank you, guys.
Thank you. Thank you.
Anybody have any questions for me?
I actually have a question or a suggestion I want to ask you. So earlier you mentioned that customers are really looking for deals and stuff like that. So how do you draw a line where a brand that just become known as a deal, like if they have a sale, then you should visit that store, or if you don't have a sale, people don't come. So I always get confused between that. Like if you do too many discounts, too many sales, then you're kind of known for that.
Yeah, so that's a great question. And the way that I would differentiate it is, I hope I said it, is that it's not all about discounts and price. Sometimes in the mind of the consumer, it's all about value, right? So if you're doing something, or if you're selling a product line that's different and there's value to it, whether it's well made, made in America, or whatever, or there's another value, a unique selling proposition that your company or retail establishment has, whether it's white glove delivery, whether it's great customer service, that stuff should be promoted as well. I mean, it's all about value. It doesn't have to be about price. Again, you're absolutely right. Not everybody's going to win if you try to get the lowest price, because not everybody can play in that game. Not everybody should play in that game. And it's not, in the long run, if you're all just about price and you don't want to play in that game, you're forcing yourself to play in that game. So again, it's value. So think of the different ways that you could promote value and what's important to the consumer that you're trying to attract. And you could do that without lowering price.
For example, the value would be like made in USA at the best price or a better price.
Correct. Yeah, correct. There's a lot of retailers that do that. Sustainability too, right? Things like that.
Well, the value could be, even though we're giving you a great deal on it, we're educating you about the project. So you're so in depth, educated into it that it's no question why you should buy it at this price.
Correct. And design services too. I mean, I failed to mention that. Perfect. Yeah. I mean, in the mind of the consumer, everybody's got a different definition of value, right? you need to know who your consumer, your main consumer is, and how you promote that value without hurting your brand, right?
Thank you.
Yes.
Can you share, you mentioned Department of Commerce. What other indicators do you use to kind of drive that? You mentioned monthly, that you have to pull data to understand like where the trends are going in home furnishing. What
Yeah.
other indicators do you follow?
Surveys. So I will tell you, one of the great resources that we have in the home furnishing industry is a great number of trade publications that are out there that do surveys all the time. Caprice, can I name those, or is that okay? Oh, Furniture Today. Home News Now, which is new too. I kind of referenced some of their material as well. Home Furnishings Business. Every single one of them, I mean, there's more, right? But I will tell you that they put out terrific survey data that really help you gauge the trend of some. And you know what? Most of what I showed you with those stats is perfectly free. I mean, I got that for free. It was like, it's perfect to stay on top of, but we have some great trade publications for sure. I mean, I look at other industries too. They're not as strong, and they don't have the data that's out there that these folks put out. And we have some fantastic speakers and knowledgeable folks that get quoted all the time. You know, the Jerry Eppersons of the world. I mean, the HFA. I mean, there's tons of information out there. But that's what I would look at. But go on the Department of Commerce site, and you can shoot me a note if you want me to send it to you. But every single month, they come out with total retail, how it did against last year, how it did against the previous month, in all the major subcategories, including furniture. And the one thing I failed to mention about a trend is that it's so weird. It's like a lot of economists are they're having trouble figuring this out. From month to month, we all say that there's a lot of issues with inflation, and consumers are cutting back and they're only spending on essentials. Then lo and behold, January shows us that discretionary purchases were really good. Last month, in March, sporting goods was really good. So kids are starting up their spring sports, right? Things like that. There's definitely restaurants doing well. That's a shift in experiences. We all see that people are just they're fatigued with inflation, right? They're fatigued with that whole narrative. So if they have any extra funds, they're going to spend them on experiences. That's why furniture is an experience. When we looked at outdoor, what greater experience is to host an outdoor event at your house? And I mean, people are at home now. Everything's about experiences. I think furniture has a great opportunity to fit in that wheelhouse, because as summer goes on, I think that's going to happen. You're welcome.
Another place that you can get stats to is the National Retail Federation.
Right.
Puts out, and that's again overall retail in many industries and categories, but it's a great resource.
Thank you.
Yeah. Awesome. Thank you guys. I appreciate it. And again, need any information about my company, or if you just wanted to brainstorm, I'm definitely open for that as well. But you guys have been very, very nice, because it's been busy. I know you're tired. It's been a long market, and I appreciate you coming.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.